The Christmas tree lights twinkled mockingly in our family's grand dining room, casting shadows across the expensive tablecloth where my father had just finished delivering his annual speech about success. I sat quietly, pushing around the remains of my turkey dinner, trying to ignore the familiar ache in my chest. And of course, he continued, raising his crystal wine glass, we must congratulate Michael on another record-breaking year for our hotels. The Princeton Group continues to dominate the luxury hospitality market. My brother Michael beamed, straightening his designer tie. At 32, he was the golden child, the chosen heir to our family's hotel empire. The Princeton Group 15 luxury hotels across the country, each one more opulent than the last. Speaking of success, my mother chimed in, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she reached for more wine. Diana, darling, isn't it time you gave up this ridiculous consulting business of yours? The position of marketing director at the Princeton is still open. I gripped my fork tighter. At 29, I'd spent the last 2 years building my own hospitality consulting firm from scratch. Not that anyone at this table cared. My business is doing fine, Mom, I said quietly. In fact, I just signed a major client last week. Michael snorted into his wine glass. Let me guess, another struggling bed and breakfast? Or maybe a quaint little motel off the highway? Actually, I started, but my father cut me off. Diana, he sighed, using that condescending tone I'd grown to hate. Still that pathetic dreamer. When will you understand? The hospitality industry isn't for dreamers. It's for players. Real players like your brother. The words hit like physical blows, but I kept my face neutral. They didn't know about the deals I'd been making, the properties I'd been quietly acquiring through shell companies. They had no idea that while they mocked my small consulting firm, I was orchestrating one of the biggest takeovers in the industry. You know, Michael added, the Princeton just acquired that boutique chain in California. 30 properties just like that. He snapped his fingers. What have you acquired lately, sis? A new coffee maker for your home office. The table erupted in laughter. Even my mother's new husband Ted joined in, though he'd only been part of the family for 6 months. Just then my phone buzzed. The caller ID made my heart skip. Sarah Collins' acquisitions team. I answered, keeping my voice level. Yes. Ma'am, Sarah's voice was crisp and professional. Should we proceed with buying their struggling hotel chain? The Princeton Group stocks just hit the target price you specified. The entire table had gone quiet, straining to hear the conversation. I stood up slowly, making sure my next words carried clearly across the suddenly silent dining room. Yes, proceed as planned. Initiate protocol echo. My father's fork clattered against his plate. What was that about the Princeton Group? I smiled, remembering all the board meetings I'd secretly attended under different names, the shares I'd been accumulating through various investment firms, the loyal employees I'd been quietly recruiting. Oh, nothing important, I said lightly. Just some business matters. Diana, my father's voice had lost its mocking tone, replaced by something closer to concern. What exactly does your consulting firm do? Before I could answer, Michael's phone rang. Then my father's. Then 3 more phones around the table. The Princeton Group's emergency alert system was working perfectly, just as I'd designed it to. Michael's face went pale as he read the message. Dad, he whispered, the shares. Someone's buying everything. The price is skyrocketing. Impossible, my father snapped, but his hands shook as he pulled up the stock ticker on his phone. Who would dare? Who could possibly? My phone buzzed again. I answered on speaker this time. Yes, Sarah. Phase 1 complete, Miss Princeton. We now own 51% of the Princeton Group's shares. Should I proceed with calling the emergency board meeting? The crystal wine glass slipped from my mother's hand, shattering against the expensive hardwood floor. The sound echoed through the dining room like the beginning of an avalanche. I looked around the table at my family's shocked faces, savoring the moment I'd worked towards for 2 years. Yes, Sarah. Call the meeting. For tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp. I paused, letting my next words sink in. Let's show them what this pathetic dreamer can do. The Christmas tree lights suddenly seemed brighter, more celebratory. This holiday was about to become very interesting indeed. The chaos that erupted in our dining room was almost theatrical. Michael knocked over his chair as he jumped up, frantically dialing his business partners. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red as he barked orders into his phone. My mother alternated between shooting me betrayed looks and trying to calm everyone down. Stop. My father's voice boomed across the room. Diana, explain yourself. Now. I leaned back in my chair, feeling surprisingly calm. What's there to explain? I saw an opportunity in the market and I took it. Isn't that what you always taught us, Dad? To be players, not dreamers. This isn't possible, Michael interrupted, his designer tie now crooked. You don't have this kind of money. You couldn't possibly. Actually, I cut him off, pulling out my tablet. Let me show you exactly what's possible when you underestimate someone for years. I pulled up a presentation and projected it onto the dining room wall, right next to their precious family portraits. 2 years ago, while you were all mocking my consulting business, I was meeting with international investors. That pathetic firm of mine? It was just a front. Slides began flashing across the wall. Acquisition reports, property portfolios, investment statistics. My family's faces grew increasingly pale as they realized the scope of what I'd built. Those struggling bed and breakfasts you laughed about, Michael? Each one was strategically located near a Princeton hotel. Those highway motels? Perfect distribution points. While you were busy bragging at charity galas, I was creating a network that's about to revolutionize the industry. My father slammed his hand on the table. You went behind our backs. Conspired against your own family. Family. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Was I family when you excluded me from board meetings? When you gave Michael my project proposals, claiming he'd created them? When you told industry leaders not to work with me because I was just your confused daughter? More phones started ringing. The news was spreading through the industry. The Princeton Group, the untouchable giant of luxury hotels, was being taken over by an unknown entity. My mother finally found her voice. Diana, honey, we can talk about this. Whatever issues you have. Issues. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Let's talk about issues. Like how Dad blocked my promotion 5 years ago because it would have put me above Michael. Or how you both sabotaged my relationship with James because he was just a hotel manager. James. Michael's head snapped up. James Morrison? Yes, James Morrison. The same James who now runs my European operations. I smiled as Michael's face crumpled. He sends his regards, by the way. Says the view from his CEO office in London is spectacular. My phone buzzed again. Miss Princeton, Sarah's voice filled the room. The board members are all confirmed for tomorrow's meeting. Also, Mr. Morrison is on the line from London. Put him through. Diana. James's familiar voice echoed across the dining room. Phase 2 is ready. All international properties are aligned. Should we proceed with the restructuring announcements? I watched my father's face as he finally realized the full extent of what was happening. His precious empire wasn't just being bought, it was being completely transformed. James, release the statements. And please join us for tomorrow's board meeting. I think it's time for a proper reunion. After ending the call, I turned back to my family. They sat in stunned silence, Christmas dinner forgotten, their world crumbling around their perfectly arranged table setting. Tomorrow morning, I said, gathering my things, the hospitality industry is going to wake up to some interesting news. The Princeton Group isn't just getting a new owner, it's getting a complete overhaul. New management, new direction, new vision. You can't do this, Michael whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. I paused at the dining room door. I already have. When, Dad? About that marketing director position. I smiled. I think I'll pass. I prefer the title of CEO. As I walked out, I heard my mother burst into tears and my father's heavy breathing. But for the first time in years, those sounds didn't affect me. Tomorrow would bring even bigger changes and I needed to prepare. This was just the beginning. The Princeton Group's main boardroom looked different from this side of the table. I sat at the head, watching as board members and executives filed in at 8:45 a.m. My father and Michael arrived last, both looking like they hadn't slept. Their usual impeccable suits seemed wrinkled, their confidence replaced by barely concealed panic. Good morning, I said, my voice carrying across the room. Please, take your seats. We have a lot to cover. James Morrison appeared on the large screen behind me, joining virtually from London. I caught the slight nod he gave me, Everything was ready. First, I began opening my laptop. Let me formally introduce myself. Many of you know me as Diana Princeton, the founder of Phoenix Hospitality Consulting. However, I'm also the CEO of Global Hospitality Ventures, which now owns controlling interest in the Princeton Group. Murmurs rippled through the room. My father's hands clenched into fists on the polished table. Over the past 2 years, I continued, my team has been analyzing every aspect of this company. What we found was disappointing. I clicked through slides showing declining satisfaction rates, outdated systems, and dropping revenue in key markets. The Princeton Group has been coasting on its reputation while the industry evolved around it. You've ignored emerging markets, dismissed innovative technologies, and maintained an outdated hierarchy that rewards loyalty over competence. Michael started to speak, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. James, please share the European numbers. James's presentation revealed how our international properties had already begun implementing new systems, resulting in a 40% increase in efficiency and guest satisfaction. This, I gestured to the screen, is the future of hospitality. Not gold-plated faucets and overpriced minibars, but seamless experiences, sustainable practices, and actual innovation. Now see here, my father finally exploded, standing up. You can't just walk in and... Actually, I cut him off. And I'm not just walking in. I'm cleaning house. I pressed a button on my laptop, and new documents appeared on everyone's tablets. Effective immediately, there will be significant changes to the executive structure. The room erupted in chaos as people scrolled through the documents. My father fell back into his chair, his face ashen. Michael Princeton, I continued over the noise, you are hereby removed as CEO. Your position will be filled by Sarah Collins, who has demonstrated exceptional leadership in our global operations. Michael's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Richard Princeton, I turned to my father, you are removed as CEO. You will be offered a position on the advisory board, non-executive, of course. Whether you accept is up to you. The silence that followed was deafening. You're destroying everything I built, my father whispered. No, I corrected him. I'm saving it. Your way of doing business is obsolete. The world has changed, but you refuse to see it. I stood up, commanding the room's attention. To everyone else, your positions will be evaluated based on merit, not tenure or family connections. Those who embrace our new direction will find plenty of opportunities. Those who don't. I shrugged. Well, the choice is yours. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. Miss Princeton, Sarah's voice came through. The press releases are ready. Wall Street is waiting for the announcements. Release them, I ordered. Immediately, phones around the room started buzzing as the news broke. The Princeton Group stock price began to climb as investors reacted to our modernization plans. One more thing, I added, turning back to my father and brother. Those Christmas dinners you love so much? They'll be held at the community centers our hotels will now support. Consider it a lesson in humility. 3 months later, I stood in the penthouse suite of our flagship hotel, looking out over the city. The Princeton Group's transformation had exceeded even my expectations. Our sustainable practices had earned international recognition, our employee satisfaction rates had skyrocketed, and our market value had doubled. My phone buzzed with a text from James. London properties breaking records again. Your father finally signed the advisory board agreement. I smiled, remembering that Christmas dinner that changed everything. My father and Michael had finally learned their lesson, though it took some time. They'd shown up at the first community center dinner, awkward but present. Mom had even volunteered to help serve meals.